So, ladies and gentlemen, join me in giving a big hand to our first speaker, Yang Berhormat Nasharuddin Mat Isa.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi man walahu wa ba'd. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. In this afternoon of session 4, hopefully it's not going to be a sleepy one after that good lunch that we had, so as to share our experience and compare notes among participants of this seminar towards supporting a movement of moderates, I shall expose briefly my perspective on two aspects. One, the challenges of modern extremism to mankind. And number two, the concept of Islamic al-wasatiyah for peace solution. Ladies and gentlemen, firstly, let us be very clear on one single point. That is, extremism exists within all sectors of life, and such psychotic behavioral nature could be further enhanced or more distinct among practitioners of cults and religions of the world. We are saying that extremists do exist among Muslims, Christians, Jews, Hindus and Buddhists, and others, and they are spread all over the world, waiting just for the correct time to strike. Admittedly, September 11 managed to change the world's perspective towards Islam, the Muslim world and the whole world by itself in general. Needless to say, much of the negative attitudes displayed throughout the world today towards Islam stems from an inability or failure to understand the basic fundamentals of Islam, as understood from its original sources, i.e. the Quran and Hadith of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The last Abrahamic religion and its followers has been portrayed as retrogressive, patriarchal, anti-modern, and the latest as extremist, in nature which coherent with the old dictum created by the anti-Islam groups that Islam spreads through the sword. In short, all the shortcomings of the past centuries are heaped on Islam and its adherents. It is within this context that Islamic scholars like Professor Naguib al-Attas had proclaimed that, and I quote, "The greatest challenge that has surreptitiously arisen in our age is the challenge of knowledge. Indeed, not as against ignorance, but as knowledge has conceived and disseminated throughout the world by Western civilization. Knowledge whose nature has become problematic because it has lost its true purpose due to being unjustly conceived and has thus brought chaos in man's life instead of and rather than peace and justice." Ladies and gentlemen, in the relation between Islam and the West, it is to be stressed that Islam is not an enemy to the West, and the West must never look to Islam as its enemy. To do so would cause great harm to either party, as the aftermath of the September 11 had proved to the world. One of the ruins we can only hope to rebuild with stronger foundations and avoid making the same mistakes. An alternative view is that human beings make selective use of the past in order to understand and to justify aspects of the present, and that the past is continually being redefined, even reinvented. According to this view, both Muslims and non-Muslims choose to remember the past, or more accurately, choose stories from the past to illustrate feelings, fears, and animosities in the present. Either way, the task of combating Islamophobia involves a repudiation of the power which stories about the past in general and about the Crusades in particular do certainly have. Ladies and gentlemen, another aspect of unfair treatment toward Islam is the sweeping generalizations of certain things which are Muslim, where such generalizations are not leveled against non-Muslims. A very good example would be Irish territories. Irish territories bombers are not called Christian fundamentalists as opposed to Muslim fundamentalists. Westerners choose to ignore the fact that the term fundamentalism is a term coined by Christians to describe themselves as serious adherents to the principal tenets of Christianity. Human rights and democratic principles are non-existent in Islamic countries as opposed to Western countries. Islamic rulers are deemed to be ignorant with regard to rights of citizens. Such accusers fail to note the contribution of Muslim authors to studies of statecraft as espoused by Al-Mawardi in his magnum opus Al-Ahkam Al-Sultaniyah, and this misconception is again a challenge that we Muslims must face and triumph over. Few of the challenges mentioned, I'll try to promote again and reiterate what has been mentioned earlier in the speech by the Prime Minister and also speeches that earlier speeches on the principles and basic tenets of Al-Wasatiyah. We view the next millennium as a challenge for Muslims to propose its doctrine as a solution to social justice, true practice of modern democracy, advancement for peace, sustainable development, and a new world order. Since Asia, particularly East Asia, is religious-centric in nature, and that the religious influences are still intact, Islam could be seen as a very strong cohesive power within the region. And I agree very much with what was mentioned by Professor Tan Sri Kamal Hassan earlier in the morning, that concentration of the development of Islam in Southeast Asia should be given a certain priority in studies in the academic world, at least. Let us not forget the fact that when the Romans conquered Palestine, the Jews were expelled, reducing them to Jewish diaspora. Nevertheless, when Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, the second Muslim caliph, conquered Palestine, the Christians and Jews were protected. Freedom, justice, peace and equality have always been the virtues of every state. Through the process of democracy, leaders of nations of the world try to pursue various strategies and overcome thousands of hurdles in the hope of attaining political stability, economic prosperity, and harmonious social stature. Since Aristotle, the term state and politics have been redefined by many social scientists to find the most appropriate and conducive means of life. But alas, the world politics was and always been unstable. People of the world seems to forget their own roots, from where life begins, and why are mankind created in this worldly life. To a Muslim, the answer has been clearly written in the Holy Quran more than 1,400 years ago. The only way to understand oneself will be one world and one God. The Islamic moderate position of Al-Wasatiyah is a middle position between religious conservatism and extremism. The Quranic concept of Al-Wasatiyah, or in the context of the Quran, mentioned as Ummatan Wasata, a middle nation, tells the Muslims to be worthy of being heir to ancient and universal truths and to principles of social and human stability, often betrayed but never forgotten, of which our chaotic world has a desperate need, a nation which witness to a hope that transcends the dead ends against which the contemporary world is battering itself to death. Islam's notion of Ummatan Wasata, the middle nation, within the context of Khayra Ummah, that is the best nation, emphasizes on moderation, offers firm foundations to promote interhuman cooperation. The betterment and development of the Muslim world in the age of globalization and religious pluralism lies in adopting and practicing the Quranic concept and prophetic Prophet Muhammad's practice of al-wasatiyah as a model of life. History has shown that Islam built a continuous high civilization across the vast regions. Cultures and peoples of the world which endured for a long period of time its strength to lay in the message from God revealed to the last prophet and the practice of al-wasatiyah. Moderation by him and the subsequent generations. When Christian scholars flocked into Spain to learn about Islamic theories of government and sciences, Muslim universities did not close their doors on the Christian scholars. If the West and Islam are to be reconciled, the return to basic tenets of mutual respect and scholarship need to be engendered and encouraged. This is a wishful thinking, but must be positively aimed for. Islamic civilization started to flounder with the abandoning of the principle of al-wasatiyah in all dimensions of life, from religious practice to education, etc. It is time to revive wasatiyah again. And I congratulate this on the effort announced by the Prime Minister earlier this morning about the establishment of the Al-Wasatiyah Institute under the Prime Minister's Department. Wasatiyah does not mean compromise. It means confidence. It means right balancing to bring justice to its place. The challenges of development before the Muslim today cannot be answered only politically. They need an all-rounded approach in all spheres of humanity. When we propose Islam to be the cohesive power among nations of the world, we do not mean to ignore their religions and great traditions of the East. Even if Islam ruled, non-Muslim will always be protected under the Sharia. History has proven the case, where Muslims have shown utmost tolerance and diplomacy. Let us not forget that when Prophet Muhammad ﷺ signed the Hudaybiyah Treaty with the non-Muslim, the Prophet ﷺ did compromise up to the extent of agreeing not to write his name as Muhammad Rasulullah, but Muhammad bin Abdullah. As again, the strong protest coming from the Sahaba or the companions of the Prophet, but to the Prophet ﷺ, the object of getting the treaty agreed and signed by the non-Muslim was far more important than discussing details that could have ended up with disagreement and to fall back to square one. We learn from here how Islam interacts with non-Muslims with great concern. As long as the non-Muslim obey the Sharia fully and support the dawla or the state, and the Muslim leader has the imam. There is no doubt, ladies and gentlemen, that Islam has been the most misunderstood religion in the world, partly because of us, the Muslim, partly due to the behaviors akhlaq of the Muslim themselves for not being able to be exemplary to the non-Muslims. Likewise, Muslim nations are often at war with one another, but at the same time could be more than brotherly with other non-Muslim states. This situation has brought the Islamic world to congregate and rethink about their future and destiny. The Middle East problem resulted in Israel's existence since 1948, and the Palestinians were left without a state. And Masjid al-Aqsa was robbed from the Muslim world. We sincerely think that it's time for Muslims to prove to the world, as they did during the dark ages of Europe, that Muslims would be able to rule with justice and maintain peace to the world order. The non-Muslim must not be afraid of the Muslims or the Sharia. What the Muslim world has lost today is the confidence of the non-Muslim in Islam due to the failure of Muslims to profess their faith as in accordance to the Holy Al-Quran. That's why we propose the slogan, going back to the Quran is most appropriate for the Muslims of today. Great Muslim civilization were once gurus of the West in terms of sciences, philosophy, architecture, and many other fields of knowledge. Knowledge triumphant, borrowing the terms of Franz Rosenthal. Ladies and gentlemen, lastly, in this time of difficulties, we as members of the Muslim Ummah should close ranks under the banner of Islam as taught by the Prophet ﷺ and has exemplified by the lives of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum ajma'in. We should spread the message that Islam is a religion of peace, and to be extremely Muslim is a state of being where a person is totally committed to all the commandments and prohibitions of Allah. To be extremely Muslim, or to be fundamentally a Muslim, is a far cry from to be an extremist or fundamentalist. An extremist or a fundamentalist is a person who only chooses certain aspects of Islam and discards the rest of Islam, has a total way of life. In turn, he then distorts such aspects of Islam that he has selected by using hate to propagate his agenda and declaration, his action to be Islamic. What the Islamic world should strive for is a better understanding of Islam by Muslims, and thereafter to propagate the faith to others as a totally comprehensive religion and contemporary in nature. Only then will humanity be freed from the shackles of ignorance, greed, and rapacity. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Yang Muhammad.